even to create those 2-for-1s, as I stated later.
All right, well, we talked earlier about the idea of Ming Shi being the first potential Chinese Pro Tour champion, but if memory serves, this will be the first Italian Pro Tour champion. I'm just having a look down here. There's an awful lot of France and Japan and the USA and, various European nations, but Italy is missing from this list, unless I've missed someone part of a team, for example, but I don't think so. I think that Pascoli is on the verge of not just personal history, but national history.
Yep, and Antonino De Rosa from the crowd says that's correct. Of course, we saw him as with a shot at the championship for the first Italian Pro Tour champion back in Prague in 2005.
That's right, and Antonino De Rosa, currently level 5, back-to-back Nats appearances in the US, 3 in a row, 05 to 07. That's a pretty remarkable achievement in itself.
It's something that, so often we look at people who are champions and have won the championship, and we don't necessarily look at just top 8s and raw numbers like that, but a back-to-back Nationals appearance, plus winning one of those, especially when it's in a place like the US where Nationals has traditionally been pretty tough, that's pretty impressive.
Yep, absolutely. US Nats, a serious tournament. Almost like, in a sense, the extra Pro Tour to an extent.
For a long time, yeah.
All right.
So John decides to tap down the Changeling Berserker. Not doing much with his mana. I'm kind of surprised to see he's not playing more creatures than he is. But like we said, he took that mulligan. Gets to hit for 4 this turn on his Kithkin Zephyronaut if he decides to. It's got Vigilance. Drew Kinsbale Skirmisher.
Is there an element here to which John can say, well, look, I know you have Thundercloud Shaman around. I don't want to overextend. I actually want to see whether my Kithkin Zephyronaut can actually go an awful long way to dealing with this thing, because over time it's going to be a 4/4 flyer, and there's not that many hits I need to do with this. Here I come, 4, thank you very much. For 5, of course, because of the Skirmisher. So Pascoli down to 13. And actually, Finkel perhaps doesn't need to do the traditional, here's 4, 5, 6 guys.
Overwhelm. I think he probably actually does want to overextend.
Okay.
Even when an opponent has a Wrath, like with the Thundercloud Shaman, with the Changeling Berserker in play, sometimes you just have to say, there's nothing I can do about it. If I give him more turns to draw it by holding back my creatures so that I can rebuild after it, you're just going to cause yourself a lot of hurt, particularly when that Sunflare Shaman is going to slowly build up a critical mass of elementals in the graveyard and simply kill the 2/2 Zephyronaut.
All right, fair enough.
So...
Already got 1 elemental in the graveyard with that Flamekin Harbinger. Well, looks like he's going to activate to kill the Harrier.
Yes.
We'll see what John's got here.
Is he going to perhaps Surge? No. Says okay, it's dead.
He does have the bounce spell for a creature that he could potentially have in hand and then use on the 1/1 to save it. It's all a question of whether or not he thinks it's more valuable. At this point in time, I wouldn't be surprised at all if he thought the Zephyronaut was more important.
Yes.
Thank you.
So there's 5 power coming down, and Finkel goes for double block, and this, of course, means there we are, as you say, he's got Disperse up, mana up, and the Disperse in hand. So that's what we're expecting any minute.
3 and 2.
3 to the Zephyronaut, 2 to the Skirmisher, and John says, I'll have the Zephyronaut back, because that's a route to victory right now.
Yep. Does give his opponent the Firebelly Changeling back, but of course that's not that significant a concern. Looks like Pascoli might only have a basic land in his hand. We can't see everything perfectly. He's got 2 cards, I believe. One of them looks to be a land. That could prove difficult. One of the weaknesses with Pascoli's deck, and granted it's a strong deck, is that he doesn't have many ways to recoup the cards that he spends. So his strategy of going 1-for-1 with his removal and then playing a large creature like the Berserker and getting in doesn't always pan out if he happens to hit a glut of the wrong types of spells when he needs them.
Sure, so there was Bright Half Banneret turned out to be the other card in Pascoli's hand, and now Finkel goes, well, okay, here I come again with the Zephyronaut we've seen before and Kithkin Greatheart. Pascoli, Changeling Hero. Changeling Berserker, I beg your pardon.
With the makeshift mannequin, John just needs to find a way to target it to get it back into the graveyard.
Just wants to say boo to it, really, and off it'll go.
He does have a couple live draws with the Kinsbale Skirmishers. You got to remember, they're not just offensive creatures with that makeshift mannequin token. He could take those out, take the Berserker out with him.
So Pascoli at 13, Finkel at 10.
Pretty close to lethal damage there, I believe. We've got 5 from the Berserker and up to 3 from the Firebelly Changeling.
Another 4. He's got 4 mountains in play there, so that would be 5, wouldn't it? So.
Well, the Firebelly Changeling does have a restriction, so you can only pump it twice.
Is that right? Okay. All right, so. Right.
It's going to block the Firebelly, perhaps, maybe not. Thinking about it.
What?
Mario's considering his plays. John's, of course, tapped out, so he won't be having any more combat tricks for this turn.
So what's Mario thinking here?
It's always tough to tell, you know. Some players are thinking about getting some ice cream from the food court downstairs, but he might be thinking about the outs that John has on his turn and whether or not he's at risk of potentially dying.
On the backswing.
Yeah, that's not a very big concern for him at 13 life. John doesn't have anything that could kill him. But he might be looking at whether or not he should pump for whatever reason, or just what his next play is going to be, or potentially bluffing to make John think he has things to think about when he's just sitting on the plane.
With his one hand and one card, and we're pretty certain that's a land, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Nothing from Finkel.
He draws for the turn and passes back, holding the Zephyronaut. And Zephyronaut's going to have to block.
Yeah, and there it goes. And Finkel just puts it in the bin. John at 5.
Yep.
Pascoli brings out War Spike Changeling.
Yep, John.
John says, "No, I'm done." That was pretty comprehensive, but a pretty odd game, Bill, all round.
Yeah, it was a little bit. John did start down a card with that mulligan, and that allowed Pascoli's early threat drop hand to make sure that his opponent didn't get out of the way. And when you see John miss drops early like he did, it just does not spell good news for his deck at all. We saw against one of his opponents earlier where he was able to against Yamwafotapa take advantage of the fact that there was, you know, a control deck and miss a couple drops and still come out ahead. But against Pascoli, who's a bit more aggressive despite being a control deck, that's not going to be the case.
No, and not only against Wafotapa, the deck was somewhat misbehaving against Carvalho as well. And now again, we're seeing a mulligan. But the thing is, a lot of newer players, they're very scared of mulligans. I know I certainly was for a very long time. And eventually, I think it may have been a Zvi article that I read, and it was just so straightforward about saying, which would you rather do? Be pretty certain you're going to lose with 7, or just start a game with 6? And when you start putting it like that, why on earth would you keep the 7?
Yep.
So there is no shame in mulliganing. There's no sense of failure. In fact, it's one of the great strategic tools that the better players have to gain an edge, because sooner or later, everyone ends up with the wrong amount of land and spells in their opening hand.
Absolutely, and there are times where mulligans can actually be to your advantage. At Grand Prix Columbus earlier this year, Flash Hulk was a very popular deck. And I used Serum Powder and Leyline of the Void to give me 4 free additional mulligans with the Serum Powder to guarantee that I opened on that Leyline of Void against those decks. Mulliganing is such a critical element of the game and such an important aspect of premier play, players who understand how to do that. And John, again, in that match, in that game, was on the draw. So even if he's down, quote-unquote, a card, he's actually got the draw step to get him back into the game.
You mentioned Flash Hulk in Legacy at Grand Prix Columbus, which Steve Sadin won. Now, how did you get on there, Bill, in fact?
How did I get on?
Yeah, in terms of playing it at that event. Where did you finish?
I lost to Steve in the top 4.
In the top 4, so you made the semi-final of the Grand Prix.
Yeah.
Well, that's pretty sweet. I finished 273rd at Pro Tour London in 1999 once.
But you got to play in the Pro Tour.
I certainly did. Absolutely. And Philadelphia. Very fine. I think I won a game there as well.
Yeah.
All right, so we're heading towards game 2. The games, we are not expecting to take that much of a time, so if you've got matchsticks under your eyes and you're thinking, can I really hang out for a 5-game final? Yes, you can. You really can, because these decks are going to go pretty swiftly at each other, and it's going to be pretty apparent whether the Kithkin can swarm over against these early drops of Pascoli and